For the past few weeks, I've been running every major Linux gaming distro through its paces. Not just opening games, not just casual testing, full installs, clean drivers. I'm talking PopOS, Nobara Linux, Bazzite, CachyOS, and yes, Windows 11 for comparison. The goal wasn't to prove Linux can beat Windows. The goal was to see where each distro shines, where it struggles, and where the difference actually matters. First up, Counter-Strike 2. Every setting to very high, locked in 1080p, and let it run. No compromise. CachyOS delivered the smoothest experience, holding between 170 and 180 frames per second, barely breaking a sweat even in intense firefights. Windows 11 remained strong at around 150 frames per second. Stable and predictable, the baseline many players expect. The pattern is clear. On a competitive CPU heavy title like CS2, Linux isn't just keeping pace anymore. In the right environment, it can surpass Windows, giving you more frames, smoother response, and less overhead during the fight. Next up, 7 Days to Die, a GPU-heavy survival game. Not as punishing as something like Cyberpunk, but it's enough to push the hardware and show where each distro really stands. Set everything to Ultra, locked in 1080p, and let the numbers speak for themselves. The takeaway here is straightforward. When the GPU gets taxed, Windows still holds ground, but Linux has caught up remarkably. Distros like CachyOS and Bazzite can compete in raw performance, while others like PopOS and Nobara remain respectable but slightly behind. Across these tests, it's clear Linux isn't almost there anymore. It's fully capable, just in different ways depending on the engine and workload. Now, Minecraft, specifically with heavy shader work enabled. I opened the game, loaded the world, cranked everything to Ultra, and activated complementary reimagined shaders with sodium for maximum performance stress. Every frame counts here, and this test highlights how each distro handles shader-intensive worlds. After all three benchmarks, the story becomes clear. Windows still performs well overall, especially on GPU-heavy workloads, but CachyOS and Bazzite are no longer just playable. They're competitive. Across these tests, Linux has reached a point where it can compete, sometimes even surpass Windows, depending on the game, the engine, and the workload. So, after testing every major Linux gaming distro against Windows, across these three very different titles, here's the reality. Linux isn't almost there anymore. Most games run flawlessly thanks to Proton, and in many cases, performance rivals or even surpasses Windows. But there's a caveat. The games that don't work on Linux aren't obscure indie experiments. They're the ones that matter. Competitive shooters with strict anti-cheats. On the other side, Windows remains the universal fallback. Compatibility is almost guaranteed, but there's a cost. Windows is getting heavier every year. The system starts to feel less like your own and more like a platform that runs itself. The choice comes down to what matters most for you: raw efficiency, performance freedom, and a system that doesn't get in the way, or universality, stability, and a familiar environment, even if it's increasingly bloated. Make sure to subscribe if you want more deep dive benchmarks and Linux gaming breakdowns. And I want to hear from you. What's your pick for 2026? Are you Team Windows, Team CachyOS, or somewhere in between? Drop it in the comments.